Hi folks, I'm Bob Sunday from Tao Stove. Today we're going to talk about the system that I carry with me to cook in when I'm camping. And we're just going to take it apart, go through it, look at the parts, talk about it. I carry a system that for some people maybe just too many parts. But I do a lot of baking. I like to bake, and I do things in the baking, and we're going to do some videos in the future here on baking in this kit, and you'll see why I'm using more. You'll see why I'm using some of these parts. But we're going to open it up and start with standard. It's a great thing to carry your stove and all the hardware in. Is a cozy. Use it all the time, and it protects it. I'm using the standard old Kmart, Walmart grease pot. Walmart don't carry them anymore. Seems that Kmart does. So that's what I'm using. And you can use a lot of other pots. This one just works really well for me. I carry a windscreen, light aluminum windscreen that fits inside the cozy and actually gets some structure to it and actually helps protect the stove and everything else that's inside it. It's just a simple light one. It's got a Class style buckle on it that I'm sure a lot of you know about. Jason Class from up in Colorado. It's a great little system because you can slide it in and out. You can take it apart, you can lay it down flat, you can put it together, and if you need to get it tighter to the stove, you just choke it down. It has a hole in one side of it for the wind, so you can see the flame, and the other side you can turn into the wind so it'll burn better and won't blow out your flame. The second part is the little strainer pan that comes in the grease pot. This is a great little unit to carry with you. You can not only make rice in your pot and use this as a strainer. Later, you can make pasta, put it down in the pot, drain the water out. So it's a great little unit. And the most fantastic part about this is that this is a great little pizza pan. You can cook little pizzas on the trail. And that's going to be a video we're going to do here in the near future on having pizza while you're camping. And this is great for that. And anything. You can bake just about any kind of bread in the top of this. Works wonderful. For baking things like biscuits, brownies, cornbread, blueberry muffins, they're really great. You need a bigger pan than that perforated one that's the top strainer. So this is a pan, and we'll do a video on this little pleated baking pan. It's just basically made from a throwaway broiler pan that you can buy at grocery stores all over. Great about it is if you're on the road and you trash it, you can just go to the grocery store in any town and find one of these. You can even find them in a hardware store and make yourself a new pan. Stove that I use most of the time for my baking, and we're going to show some other stoves that are good for baking too. It's a wick stove. It's a water jacketed wick stove, water keeping it cool. It has a large capacity of alcohol, about 2.5 ounces. Usually don't run more than 2.5. It'll go 3. But if you get too much in it, even with the water jacket, what you're going to find is that the alcohol will get too hot, start to expand, boil out, and you just got more flame. But it's not controllable. So I try to stick to it about the 2.5 ounces of alcohol at a max. It just, as an example, if you cook a brownie on this, which takes about 30 minutes, this stove will burn about 7/8 of an ounce of alcohol. It's pretty efficient. It'll then, boom, you're keeping that alcohol level up. And one of the things about keeping the alcohol high in these stoves is that With a fiberglass wick, if you burn down too low in your alcohol, that wick will ignite and char. And you see that little char mark in the middle. That's fine. That doesn't stop the stove from working. But if it was to burn all the way over, it'll get brittle and it won't work. It won't absorb anymore. It'll basically melt together. I like to run my wick down really low. And I know it might be hard to see, but at the edge of the wick, there's a small jet hole. And those jets literally push the fire to the center over top of the wick. And they don't really add a lot of heat, but they keep the flame contained and they keep it real uniform. And for me, it works well. It's a good stove. You can just pour the water back out of it after you're done, and you'll see that that's what these ports right here and here, they're for the water. And you fill your alcohol in the center can. After you've dumped the water out of it, you can turn this stove up, pour the alcohol that you haven't used back out, so you save a lot of alcohol. And it's a good little stove, and a lot of it's because it has a long burn time. A lot of things that you bake can take anywhere from 20 to 35 minutes to do, and even at that, you don't burn this down so low that you hurt the wick. And this stove right here, that one wick has been in this stove since the day it was built, and I've probably baked 40 or 50 things, working my baking process out with this wick. It's not been changed. So I do supply with the stoves extra wick. I also put an extra long wick in them, so that if you do trash your wick and you're out camping, you can pull it up, slide it over, and you got more wick. So you're not stuck out in the woods with the wick burned up. As I said before, this is just your standard Kmart grease pot. One thing I found when baking, and that was the real education, is that the first time I did a brownie and it was so hard that you couldn't even put a knife in it, because I had the baking pan down in the bottom of the pot, and this pot got so hot that it just took the brownie and caramelized the bottom and turned it into about a 1/4 inch of char. So that wasn't a very good brownie. Had to do a little more research. What I found works for me, and I'm not going to push any system one way or the other. This is just something that's worked for me. I use a combination of steam and dry baking. Now, I know there's a lot of folks out there that do steam baking and they do it in a bag. That's great. They like it. It's wonderful. It works. Hey, it's a perfectly good way to do it. If I make a biscuit, and I got to be real honest here with you, I grew up in the South, even though I live in the Southwest now. And there's no such thing as a biscuit and gravy in the South. It's biscuits and gravy. And if you make one little biscuit, to me that's not a Southern biscuits and gravy meal. I like to make a big biscuit. And I can make a biscuit in this system that's about that size, and it's a great biscuit. You can cut it into about 8 little biscuits, and after it's cooked and it's sitting in the cozy and it's doing a little cooking thing longer, which I'll talk about in the baking, while the stove's running, then you turn around and make your gravy while it's cooling, and boom. By the time the gravy's done, you got the biscuits ready to cut. Hey, you got biscuits and gravy. I think it's a great meal. And that's just me. I like to eat. So I'm not looking at cooking little things. I'm looking at cooking big things. I like big brownies. I like my brownie to look like a cake. And that's what you're going to see. We're going to show you that one, and I think it's a pretty good brownie. Really, the last part of this system, and maybe I'll backtrack just a little bit. When I first burnt my first brownie to death, I figured out that, hey, I've got to lift that pan off the bottom. And my original grease pot that I had one of these. And I really wasn't thinking about using it as a pizza pan or a strainer. I just trying to work out the first part of the process. So I took that pan And I took a crimper and I crimped it in so that now it would slide down into the pot. And the first time I put it in there, I set it like this. Well, guess what? Big aluminum surface. It burnt the brownie again, but it didn't burn it as bad. So I was about half the battle won. So I'm sitting there looking at it, wondering how I'm going to make a brownie that's not going to be burnt that I can actually eat. And I said, well, heck, it fits down in there. Flip it up this way. Let the pan sit just on that rim. Now there's hardly any contact at all. It's just the heat that's radiating up out of the bottom of the pan. It worked really well. As you can see, the difference in the shine on these. This one has baked a lot of things. This is a brand new one because I love these pots, and I went out and got another one so I could talk about it. Plus, I needed a pizza pan, and that's perfect. That works good. Even though you can make this out of a piece of aluminum foil also. You can make yourself a shallow pizza pan just like this and drop it in there. No problem. But I really like this. Hey, it comes already made. You get it for the $6 or $6.50 that you pay for this pot. I think it's a good deal. After I've used this for a long time and I thought about it, and if you go out and buy a pot, you don't want to trash this by turning it into a lift if you want to use it for things like setting it in there and cooking a pizza. So what do? Well, all that really was a ring with a bottom in it. I just took a light gauge piece of aluminum, made a ring, took a crimper, crimped it around the edges, and that really all that does is add some strength to that ring, keeps its shape. You take that little ring, you drop it in the pan, you put your pot down on top of it, holds it up real nice. I'm not going to go into how much water to put in the pan right now and that kind of thing, because we'll talk about that when we're actually baking with this system. But overall, that's about it. One of the things about the baking is you need a pan to bake in. It would be wonderful if they made another one of these that was big and deep and dropped in there, but they don't. So I went to a hardware store, grocery stores, Walmart, Kmart. Everybody carries light gauged aluminum broiler pans. And I just went and got one, figured out my diameter of the pan and laid it out. And we're going to do a video on making a pan. So I'm not going to go too deeply into this right now, but I'll just show you a round disc folded in 16 facets and then folded and pleated. And what those little pleats do when you fold it up, it makes the pot, but when you fold it out, it makes the pot bigger. It allows you to get the baked item out of the pot. You do create a lot of little nooks and ridges when you create this pot, and if you can't open it up, it can be very hard to get your baked things out of it. But if you can open up just a little bit of the one side, most things will come out very easily. So, thanks for watching today. I hope I've showed something that you might be able to use. These are going to be available for someone who doesn't want to take the time to produce their own pan. I'll be producing these, and they'll all fit this pot, which will also be available. So, thanks, and hope to see you again real soon.